everyone, my name is Sara Stout and I'm an assistant professor at Bucknell University. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the Data Science by Design initiative and our experimentation with the new community of practice for data creatives. Before I get started, I just want to make clear that this is a team effort, and so this would not be possible without the leadership team shown here. It takes a village to make this sort of thing happen. So what is data science by design? Our mission statement is we want to celebrate the fundamental creativity of data science. We want to support those who leverage creative mediums, design thinking, and storytelling mechanisms to convey the practice as well as the insights of data science. And we want to establish this community that's dedicated to developing a more open, ethical, and inclusive future for the field. This is really inspired by us wanting to broaden who sees themselves as a data person or a data scientist, and thinking about the ways that we might incorporate less traditional research products beyond the sort of the academic paper, and also thinking about the people that inspire us, the people who work with data in creative ways and even artistic ways. And we want to find a way to bring people together who have like-minded interests in this and really support them in that creativity. So we were lucky to get some funding from both the ADSEC Career Development Network and the Code for Science and Society to have some sort of remote events and community building in the past year. We're also supported by the Berkeley Institute for Data Science, where some of us on the leadership panel first met and some are still affiliated with. So we have had some funding in order to sort of put this mission statement into practice. And how we're going to go from our goals to sort of meeting them is we wanted to have this series of events and community building. So we wanted to start with an event that would bring us all together, share different ideas, teach about different creative mediums, and find a way to sort of support one another in these endeavors. And also to have some sort of activation energy. We want to sort of get the energy to work on all of those passion projects that we just need that push to really get to. Then once we've all come together in this event, keep in mind virtual during these times, we then want to keep this community going and support that community in terms of creating these creative works. And so we want to be able to fund people to do this, either for their time or for materials, to create things like zines, personal essays, art, guides, interviews, things that are sort of these less traditional mediums of expression, but also maybe more accessible and broaden the audience of who might be reading these things. We then want to bring all those things together into some sort of book or anthology that we can sort of share even more broadly and get people excited about this kind of work, and have some sort of event that celebrates that work and shows what goes into it. So this was sort of our grand vision of what we wanted to do. And we started with event 1, which we called Creator Conf. Now, this was a virtual event, and we had a series of goals for this event. We wanted to inspire people, teach them, and support them to use creative ways to communicate data science, not just the methodology, which is important, but also best practices and the culture behind the scenes. We really want to focus on process as well as product. We also want to lead by example in the practice of creative communication. Let's actually get our hands on these things. Let's do some activities to practice this. And create with the purpose of communication, like showing that creation can also help people get their message across. And again, we want to get past this activation energy. We want to get that energy going so that we might keep these projects going after the conference. And then as always, the community aspect is really important. We want to establish it, we want to foster it, and have a way to sort of have people share ideas, create this support network, especially while we're all remote, and finding ways to come together even virtually. So with that in mind, we started to think about, okay, who might we want to talk at this type of thing? And first, we just made a list of people who inspired us personally and just went for it. We got really lucky, got some great speakers. We wanted to hear from people who had a new voice. We also wanted to hear from people about things that we were interested in but weren't super knowledgeable about. So one thing that sort of led into that was this Designing for Accessibility and Inclusivity panel. That's something we as organizers were interested in, but we didn't know much about. So we had some great experts come in, talk to us about how they do their jobs, how we can get involved, and how we can sort of think about broad audiences from this accessibility lens. We also had a visual storytellers panel where we had people that we were inspired by their work talk about how they do their work, not just what they do or what they sort of outcome is, but how they do this behind the scenes. How do they collaborate? How do they take on new projects? And this was really eye-opening for us. You can see here that we have some sketch notes of these two panels. This is also leading into that creative angle. Really highly recommend this for your conference. You can see here there's a good way to sort of synthesize what happened to share out, but also have this sort of creative angle and think about these pictures might be an accessible way of explaining what went down. We had other sessions about creativity in the learning environment. So how do we teach with creativity? How do we get students excited about data science by thinking about this creative lens? So we talked about visual metaphors. We did some storyboards. We also thought about just different mediums for expression. So beyond the paper, the blog, the data visualization, what about something like a zine? That's a sort of DIY magazine that's a mix of visual and textual elements. And we had a workshop on that where everybody in their own little Zoom box is making this zine and sharing out. And this was a really great way to sort of think about other ways of sharing your work. How can we do this sort of in a more fun way and sort of share what we're doing in a simple way, but an effective way? And after this event, we had a lot of energy and it kept going. So we have a virtual Slack community of people in this conference who still are in touch and organize things even today. So there's lots of homegrown community events that participants in the original conference have organized, and us as the leadership panel have sort of helped facilitate, but it's really grown by these participants. So we've had book club discussions on books like Data Feminism, Design Justice. We're gearing up for one on living in data. We also have an idea called Recreation Thursday, which is about picking an artist or a piece of artwork and trying to recreate or make something inspired by that in sort of a coding language, maybe R, Python, whatever your favorite thing is. And this has been also a great way to sort of practice those technical skills, but having this creativity angle while also learning about art ourselves. And again, this has just blossomed from the people who virtually met and now are still cheering each other on as they work through their various projects. And where we're going now is we're trying to find a place to bring all of these creative projects together. So we're compiling a Future of Data Science anthology to show off some of these creative projects that have been a result of this activation energy in the original CreatorConf. So we started CreatorConf with a discussion of what we want from the future of data science. You can see this sort of sketch notes of what we thought there. And then we wanted to bookend this at the end of the conference, at the end of this sort of summer, to actually create products that tell us about this future of data science. So we put out a call for things that were sort of related to what we hope to see. And this is creative projects from writing to artwork, et cetera. And we wanted to have sort of a venue for that, to celebrate that kind of work and really value it. But of course, to do that, we want people to be supported in that, not just from a community angle, but from a logistical angle. So some of that funding, actually a lot of that funding, went towards mini grants to support folks' time and supply needs as they work together on this. So we were able to fund people to work on these essays, these zines, the data visualizations, some tactile displays, and then include what they made, but also how they made it. So having a write-up of what was their process so we can see both the finished product and know what went on behind the scenes. So we're in the process of putting that stuff all together in this anthology, so stay tuned. It will be released probably spring 2022. And think about this as like a glossy magazine that's really supposed to be an exciting way or entry point for people in data science, sort of the alternative to reading a bunch of research papers. And to sort of give you a teaser of what might be in there, we have a subset of submissions that I'll share right now. So we have somebody working on a data visualization that's tactile. It's actually made with it's like a rug, it's feelable. We have somebody encoding the process of fermentation and thinking about the multi-sensory ways of explaining that data. We have a bunch of artist interviews to hear more behind the scenes about how they do their work. We have someone talking about live streaming and the community that builds around showing your mistakes to the world. We have relationships between visualizations and music, and we have modelers' manifestos about how we can be more ethical in our data science. And this is just a taste of what's in this anthology. We're really excited about it. People really got creative, and we're excited to be able to showcase that. So let's just think about what we aim to do and where we are at. So we had this great event. we were blown away by this remote event. We all know that sometimes remote events can be hit or miss, and we thought that this one was really helpful in that we really felt that energy. And I think part of this came from the fact that we reached out to people who individually filled out a short application process to join, because we wanted to have people in that sort of I'm going to be active mindset. And we followed up personally with each one, and we had a great turnout. And I think that little individual touch really sets off this sort of community angle. We really were doubling down on that, and I think that paid off. We were also really lucky to have some people just really blow us away with these community projects. We saw things that were so out of the box that we were happy to fund, right? This isn't a lot of money to each person, but it's enough to really have them be able to do something that they otherwise would not have the resources to do. And this book, we're really excited to share out. We haven't done this event 2 yet. We're thinking about having this be sort of an anthology launch and to really celebrate it there. So keep an eye out for that. But overall, I think we really achieved this goal of like activation energy to start, and then maintaining that support network, even remotely. And we're excited about that. So what's next for us? We want to continue to support that remote community. And we also want to advocate for these activity-based conferences, designing your conferences with short activities that everyone can do on their own and sort of hold up and share. And that can really help us sort of like get over this Zoom gloom, right? We also want to seek sustainability for this mini grant workflow. I think it's great to be able to support these passion projects that just need a little nudge to get there, and being realistic about being able to pay people for their time for these things. And we're hoping that this anthology will show the value of these alternative products and show that communication to broad audiences is a thing that we should be celebrating, and maybe might open up more people into thinking about becoming data adjacent, at least. And we also want to increase the awareness of the need for and methods of accessibility. This is something that we learned a lot about throughout this process, and we are by no means experts, but we really want to sort of elevate those voices who are experts and can tell us how we can engage with everyone. Broader audiences doesn't just mean understandable to the average person, but also literally accessible. And we want to think about how we can do that. And with that, I just want to thank you for listening. If you're interested in getting involved or providing support, please feel free to reach out. We can be reached at the Data Science by Design Gmail, or you can feel free to reach out to me personally. And keep an eye out at datasciencebydesign.org for more information about this anthology release. And thanks again for listening.